Welcome to another episode of the Harder to Breathe podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dusick. I was the founding drummer of Maroon 5, but I'm now a licensed therapist, author, and mental health advocate. On our show today is Anthony Ferraro. He's an inspirational guy. Nothing has stopped him from pursuing his dreams and is really just a delightful guy. You're going to love his story when we get into it. With me, as always, is my co-host, Duck Maylard. How you doing, Duck?
On the contrary, everything has stopped me from following my dreams.
No,
if it's cloudy out, I shut it down for the day. No, I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, to be honest with you. I flew back in town from Vermont last night after spending the 4th of July weekend there, which was lovely. I recommend,
You recommend the state of Vermont?
New England. Yes, absolutely. Vermont is for lovers. Yeah. I don't know, maybe not.
Have you used any of Dr. Bruce's sleep therapy to try to combat the effects of jet lag or anything?
I've tried a little bit, but traveling always does it to me. It was and then you have like those things that come up in travel where you get flight delays and things, and you all of the best laid plans of mice and men,
right,
just kind of go right out the window. So I got home late last night, but we had a show to do. I was like, you know what? I've performed under worse conditions.
There you go. We persevere. Well, you look great. You don't look tired.
Thank you.
I'm tired too. I had to get up early to get a tee time for my golf course. So it's like we're all struggling. We're all going through rough things.
The things we deal with, too,
right?
For our lives.
Well, jokes aside, it is funny that you say that because we've talked about the danger with me constantly coming on here and being like a sad sack of like, Ryan, I'm sad, Ryan, I'm depressed. So like, I was trying to think of like something positive that we could talk about or a story that I could relate.
This is an uplifting episode,
yeah,
so
exactly.
I appreciate that.
So this is an opportunity. We're recording this in the middle of July. It's actually a couple days away from what would have been my father's 78th birthday coming up. And I actually have a really nice memory that I don't know why it came up the other day, but I was thinking about it, and I'd like to share it with you. So it also has to do with our shared love of baseball. When I was in 6th grade, I tried out for the baseball team at my school, and I was not a great baseball player. I've always joked that I'm like just good enough to make the team, but I've never really been good enough to play. Like I'd ride the bench a lot and things. And baseball was probably my weakest of the 3 sports that I played, basketball being the best. And for whatever reason, my father was at tryouts, which it was very rare. He was, by that point, my parents were already divorced, and he was working. So even if he had been around, he wouldn't have been to be at my tryouts. But for whatever reason, he was there. And I remember 2 very specific things that happened where, we're doing like base running drills, whatever. And I find myself on third base, and a fly ball to center field goes out, and I'm like, all right, I gotta try to tag up. And there's a big 8th grader catcher, anyway, the center fielder catches the ball, throws it in, and I just do what I'd seen on TV a million times, Pete Rose running over the catcher, and I trucked the kid. And I boom, knocked him over. And the coaches were like, whoa, who's this kid? Or whatever. My dad was like, yeah. I was like, Dad, I did that for you. And then literally we do the same drill again. And the same thing happens. I'm on third. There's a fly ball. This time, though, I'm halfway down the line, and that catcher is ready for me. he rears up and sends me about halfway back to third. And I got a concussion. And I was not, I wasn't knocked out, but my bell was rung, as we said in the 80s. But I still remember. My dad laughed. My dad was like, yeah. He was like, I took a hit like a man, He brought me home and took care of me. He was like, told my mom, he's like, don't let him go to sleep tonight. Just keep an eye on him. He just got his bell rung, But I remember that feeling of him being proud of me. And granted, it might have been somewhat of an outdated model of toughness, my son, but it was still
take a licking
exactly,
and keep on ticking.
Exactly. So maybe it's not ideal in today's kind of what we would want our fathers to be for us, but it was still a really nice memory of the first time I did it, I knocked the big kid over and I scored, and my dad was like, good baseball play, all that. And then even when I failed, he was like, you knew you were going to get knocked over that time, and you still did it. I was really proud of you, and it was a nice memory that I wanted to share with you and the listeners.
Well, that's lovely, and it is interesting. Even obviously you've talked a lot about the challenging relationship, with your dad, and even when you have a parent that is not everything you'd want them to be, you still want their their approval
Right.
and validation, right? It's like that never ceases. And that's why it could be so challenging for a lot of people, even decades later, when they're in a different place in their life and they've, seemingly made their peace with the ways in which their family life wasn't ideal, but they still long for that thing that they never got, and or just want. My dad to this day still says, like anything that happens in my life with my kids or whatever, like my parents have been gone for 30 years at this point, whatever it's been. I mean, it's been longer than that, obviously, but they died before I was born. So 50 years. But, he says like, I just wish they were around so I could show them and they'd be proud of me. It's like even in your 70s, you want your parents to be proud of you, Yeah. So it's those moments are nice when you get that thing and you feel that validation that only a parent could give you. So that's lovely.
And it's also helpful memory to hang on to because, so often we fixate on the negative memories and my dad was this and he was terrible, but there are good memories. And in letting go of that anger and that guilt and forgiving him, it allows me to think about those without a caveat, without having to be like, yeah, he was nice that day, but he's a monster or whatever. I can just isolate these nice memories and say, he was a guy with troubles, with addiction, and made bad choices. But on this day, he was what I needed him to be. And on this day, I was everything he'd hoped I would be, So it's like, it's a nice kind of encapsulated moment of positivity that I can go back to as a touchstone. I don't have to always fixate on the negative memories or things like that,
Right. There are two things in this episode that are reminding me of one of my favorite movies from the 90s.
Yeah.
Rudy. Remember Rudy?
Of course.
Rudy. I won't give it away, but there was something that Anthony said in our conversation.
I thought you're like, I'm not going to give Rudy away. I don't want to spoil the 35-year-old sports movie.
Yeah, too soon. No, Anthony was saying something about, it's early in the story, so I can ruin it.
Yeah.
The coach the school was going to let him in, and he got the letter saying he could get into this school, and then the head of the school.
The priest. It was a Catholic school, I believe, and unfortunately, he passed away during the summer, and so the letter that said you're going to be getting into the school, they ripped it up, and they're like, you're not going into the school.
Yeah, that was just like in Rudy, where finally the coach says you're going to, play one game next year, and then the coach retires, and they have a new coach, and he doesn't care about Rudy, and he has to prove himself all over again.
Yeah.
So that reminded me of Rudy. But what you were just talking about, as much as you're rooting for Rudy the whole time, it's so sad that his dad is just always constantly telling him, like, you should just accept that you're just a Rudiger. You're never going to accomplish anything.
You got to work at the steel mill with Vince Vaughn, and it's fine.
Yeah. And so finally, at the end of the movie, his dad comes to the game at Notre Dame and sees him play, and he can't help but be proud of him and finally, like, acknowledge all of the work he's put into achieving this dream of his, as amazing as it is, and you're just like, all right, for one day his dad's proud of him, finally, and he has that one memory he can look back on of the day that his dad believed in him,
and this is such a telling indication of our different upbringings or our different interests, because what that makes me think of is the movie Billy Elliot, where all he wants to do is dance, and his father, also working in the mines, is like, "You'll never be a dancer, Billy." And then he goes to see him. Spoiler alert for Billy Elliot. He goes to see him like the Metropolitan Opera or the ballet, and he leaps on stage, and there's this beautiful shot of the father like just gasping, because it's like he's so struck by the beauty of it, and he understands it, and it's a nice cathartic full circle moment. So, dads, accept what your sons want to do and just love them regardless. So there you go. That's our message for the day.
And the times have changed also, though. So much about that story you told, it's like baseball doesn't even embrace those things anymore.
Right? Yeah, they got rid of running into the catcher. Yeah. But the coaches told me at the end of the year, they were like, you weren't going to make the team. And then that day you showed us, you may not have the skill, but you got the heart. You're like Rudy, and I made the team. I sat on the bench the whole season, but it was nice to hear that, like, those little things matter. So
it's like that scene where he tells Vince Vaughn, if you had half the heart of Rudy, you'd be an All-American.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we have, again, just a fabulous conversation with a really inspirational guy, Anthony Ferraro,
a fellow Jerseyan.
Yes, fellow Jerseyan, and this was another guest that you sought out yourself. So that's cool. Thank you for doing that.
It was my pleasure. It was really
Great
cool
find.
to stumble upon him on social media and be like, this guy's perfect for our show. And I reached out, and all the other people that I DM, they ignore me, but this guy, he got back to me right away. So thanks, Anthony.
All right, well, Duck, say all the stuff that needs to be said before we jump into this
Gotcha. Well,
conversation.
if you're listening to the Heart of the Breathe podcast, or you're seeing this in your feed, it means you need to hear this today. So why don't you become a subscriber? Why don't you become part of the conversation? Follow us on all the platforms, on TikTok, on Instagram at Harder to Breathe Podcast. Email us at hardertobreathepodcast@gmail.com. Maybe you've got a suggestion. Maybe you've got a criticism. Maybe you just want to tell Ryan that he doesn't look tired and that whatever his facial regimen is, it's working. So whatever you want to do, email us at hardertobreathepodcast@gmail.com. Like and subscribe, comment on all these videos and stuff. It really helps us. And we have new episodes out every Tuesday. How's that?
Excellent. Wow, you've got that down, man.
But and apologies, my audio on the interview is a little suspect. My mic wasn't working. Now it's beautiful and my nice bass sound is there. But in the interview, it's a little shady. I apologize.
It's all good, man.
Yeah.
Without any further ado, here's our conversation with Anthony Ferraro right here on the Harder to Breathe podcast. Anthony, it's such a pleasure to meet you. You have such an inspiring story, and I'm so excited to get to know you better.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, stoked you guys reached out. I'm honored to do it.
You are the perfect example of like the For You algorithm on Instagram actually working perfectly for me, because the first time I saw you was a couple months ago. You were a guest of the Brooklyn Nets, who I'm a huge fan of. They had you there to like try out some kind of interactive device that allows blind people to enjoy the game in real time, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah, it was called the One Court. It was really cool.
Yeah. And then, so I was like, oh, that was really awesome. And I think I even posted about it like, hey, this is the inclusion that everyone's raging against in the DEI world. Like, this is what we're fighting against. And then a couple weeks ago, then I suddenly see you skateboarding on my feed, and I was like, all right, this guy, he's a Nets fan, he's skateboarding, I gotta reach out to this guy. So first of all, like Ryan said, thanks so much for joining us. It's really cool to have you on. And then as I got to know your story, I watched your documentary, and like I said, I'm from New Jersey myself, so I grew up in a lot of the same environments and stuff that you did. I wanted, just for our listeners who haven't had a chance to maybe follow you or watch your documentary, can you kind of just give us a quick, your story, just kind of like so people can know who it is we're talking to today?
Yeah, of course. Well, I was born blind with a degenerative condition called Leber's congenital amaurosis, and I had some usable vision as a kid, like enough to like reference things, but not see it in perfect detail or anything like that. I still read Braille my whole life, and my situation was unique because I grew up the youngest of 5, but I also grew up like 13th of like 65 cousins.
Oh, wow.
And we all grew up.
Good Italian family.
Yeah,
huh?
and we it's the Irish Catholic side actually. The Clarks, and we all grew up in this small beach town in Spring Lake, New Jersey. So it was like I never got treated any differently. You know, I was like grew up skateboarding, surfing. I always say like I used to ride bikes until I started hitting parked cars. And then my mom was like, come on, let's just do the skateboard or something. But I was really lucky, never got treated any differently. Went to a school for the blind till 6th grade, and then transferred to the public school, started wrestling, and I was awful. I went like 2-12 my 7th grade year. And
Hey, 2 times, 2 wins. That's a
one of
start.
the
And you
wins-
won twice.
One of the wins was a forfeit where you just go and get your hand raised.
Oh, okay.
And I think the other kid might have like tripped or something. I got really lucky. But
Hey, a win is
a
a
win
win.
is a win. I feel that. But I just like, I wanted to get better, you know, and I told my dad I got to start training. I found a wrestling club, started, you know, doing this nonstop, like 4 nights a week, leaving the beach and going to tournaments every week. And every week it was the same outcome at these tournaments. I'd just go there and get pinned 4 different times. And it took me like months. I didn't even score a point in these tournaments. It was like really demoralizing. And then, you know, I set my goal to just score a point instead of winning the tournament. And those micro goals like really helped me climb up to that, you know, major goal. And
Yeah.
then I was accepted to a high school both my older brothers went to. private high school in New Jersey, and I was like really excited. I had the handwritten letter of acceptance in 7th grade, and then 8th grade came around. The president passed away who wrote that letter, and I got a letter saying, sorry, Anthony's no longer accepted to this school. We don't want to have to provide any accommodations for him academically or environmentally. And it was like, you're like 14 years old, and it's like the first time you realize like the world cannot be fair.
Yeah.
And it's just like there's nothing you can do. So I had to like push through that kind of, and at the same time in 8th grade, I ended up going undefeated in wrestling and like winning the whole championship. And I was the only blind wrestler. I was wrestling against all sighted kids, and there was a modification. You had to like stay in contact with me, so I knew where you were just to make it more fair.
Right.
And I was losing 13-0 in the finals in 8th grade, and it's just like life. You can't give up until like it's over, really. And then I end up throwing this kid to his back, winning the match. Everyone goes crazy. We shake hands, walk away from each other. He was real respectful. The dad ends up coming over to my dad and I and saying, there's your son doesn't belong in this sport. He has an unfair advantage. He should go do something else. This isn't fair to my kid or anyone else who has to wrestle him. All this stuff. It was like, are you kidding me? It was really like just a lot at that young of an age, and then pairing that with the rejection from the high school, it was like it really affected me. Stuff that I'm like digging up today in like therapy is like I didn't realize like rejection, insecurities came from that, and like so much, just a lot of different things, and you're so young trying to comprehend all this. And then I end up going to another high school that reached out, and they accepted me with open arms, and end up doing pretty well, like 122-19 I think in high school for wrestling.
Not bad.
When I look back, I always thought I failed after high school, and then when I look back, I'm like, holy shit, that's like, sorry, am I allowed to curse on here?
Absolutely. Let it fly.
Just like, holy shit, that like, I can't believe that I won that many matches. It was pretty insane.
Yeah.
And I won districts twice, all this stuff. So my brother like saw this, me dealing, that adversity in wrestling never stopped. Like it got louder and louder in high school because I was doing better and better. And people would be like, he has an unfair advantage. People would go so far as saying like, this kid's faking his blindness to get an upper hand in wrestling. And one time someone said to my dad, they're like, it's really messed up. You would have your son fake a visual impairment to, get an upper hand. And while he's saying this to the guy, my dad looks over and I'm like tripping on the bleachers because I don't even know where the hell I am. And he's like, yeah, he's really faking it. But it's just like, that stuff. My brother, long story short, they ended up, my brother took a sizzle reel of me talking about what it was like being a blind wrestler and just dealing with life blind. And he linked up with this filmmaker, and they decided to shoot this, full feature-length film of my senior year, following me around, catching like all this raw stuff in real time, and trying to be the first blind state champion, and just other things outside of that. And got put on the shelf after my senior year, and then 2 years later they took it down, and Chris put together the first 15 minutes. That's the guy that linked up with my brother Oliver, and he was ready to show him the first 15 minutes. He was really excited about what he had, and my brother was stoked. And 2 days before they were supposed to meet, my brother actually, at the age of 27, never ended up waking up, and it was just like a awful shock to the world. No one saw this coming. My brother wasn't like a addict or anything like that, and it was just like a one mistake or something like that, and it was just it was a real shock to the system. And Chris vowed at his funeral that he was going to finish this film, and the next 2 years he did, and it led to I think we raised all this money on Kickstarter. All these people came out of nowhere supporting this film, and then we went around he finished this, it's like an hour and 26 minutes, and we took it around the country and all these film festivals, and it won all these awards. And it's like, it's really cool because it's this like, Chris put such hard work into this, the director, and seeing like this thing that my brother kind of dreamed up come to reality. It's like a gift from him, sort of, and it's just like he lives on forever through that. And it's already, it's been a catalyst to helping me get on Paralympic team reached out to me for judo, and they're like, would you consider training judo for the Paralympics? And that happened, and it's just led to all these amazing things in my life. So it's like, it's almost like, here you go. Like, he's still gifting me things even when he's gone. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of my wrestling journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I watched the documentary. It's called A Shot in the Dark, which it was available on Tubi where I saw it. So you guys at home, please check it out. It's touching, it's moving, but it's also like, I'm a guy, like I said, I grew up in New Jersey, so I was around wrestling, but I was not into wrestling at all. But when I watched you wrestle, even as an amateur, I could go, oh, that guy's good. Like, you could see, you'd be in that down position where someone's on top of you, and in 2 seconds, you flipped him around, and I was like, oh, okay, he's good. So I had a couple questions about that. In terms of the rule that as a visually impaired wrestler, you have to stay in contact with people. Did that benefit you as a wrestler because you're a stronger, more physical type of wrestler as opposed to shooting in, and which you can't do, grabbing legs and stuff. So was that a benefit, something that you really focused on, was just being a bruiser and really kind of using your strength to overpower opponents?
Right. So it didn't I guess it just naturally had to happen that way because I couldn't just dance around with kids and look all pretty and showy. And I had to really work on, my best defense was a brutal offense. And I had to be very heavy handed to always try and know what they're going to do. So my hands are constantly heavy on my opponent to if I feel their muscle twitch, I know they're going to try and drop their level or do something. And I react accordingly. And then, just trying to wear people out. And
yeah,
it just became such a headache because it became such a political thing. Referees would try to get involved with the rules and say it's unfair to the other kid because all this stuff. And it just got it got so in my head. Looking back, it's just I was a baby, dude. I was in high school. You know what I mean? And you're dealing with all this pressures from different sides and people expecting you to be this state champ. And you're just some little scared blind kid trying to figure out life essentially. And, I just want to wrestle. I don't want to have to deal with all these calls and trying to get the call and people I had crowds booing me at certain points. It was just awful. And it was so much as a kid. I would never want anyone to go through that. And thankfully, because of all that, drama through my high school career, it was I don't want to say the first because there's other people who do it before me, but it became a very popular political siding thing, who are you going to side with and all this stuff. And it ended up getting worked out to where I'm confident that the rules for the blind are more set in place now.
Nice. So, yeah, go ahead, Ray.
It's just so interesting to hear, with the challenges that you had going into this with your eye condition. A lot of people would obviously just accept that was something that was going to limit them in terms of the things that they were going to do. But your challenges didn't end there. I mean, at every step of the way, there were things that could have set you back or did set you back, and you had to find ways to fight through that and overcome these things. And, I'm just curious, where do you get that fortitude, that resilience? I mean, is it because of the challenges that you had very early in life that you built resilience that others don't build? Or is there just something about you inherently? Is it something you inherited from your family? What is it?
It's a good question because I ask myself this all the time. I mean, not to get preachy on here, but God is a big part of my life, and it definitely carries me through times of my life that I don't think I would have made it through otherwise, losing my brother. And then at the same time I lost my brother a year later, actually a couple months later, I was the one to find my mom at the bottom of the stairs in a coma. She had fallen down the stairs, cracked her head open, and suffered a traumatic brain injury. And I was the one that walked down the stairs and found her. No one else was home. And it was this, incredibly traumatic experience and just so many things. And it's I don't know how I made it through, and I think when it comes to a work ethic, my work ethic has always been, I want to say I've always tried to work harder than other people. One, because I feel I'm already a little, it being blind, you're already at a little bit of a disadvantage. You just have to work a little harder to figure things out and do them, but it doesn't mean you don't. And then I had this sick mentality that when I was training, for example, and this just translated over to my life from doing those things, I think, so young. But like when I would train so hard because I think everyone else around me is training harder than me. And the case was that people are like taking breaks and walking in a circle to like, catch their breath and do stuff. And I'm over there like I can't get enough reps in. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's really it's kind of a sick mentality because I'm definitely an overachiever. I get like I find more joy in leaving like crawling out of a practice room or like training in something or like my fingers are bleeding from trying to play guitar like when I first started. All these things than the actual medals. Does that make sense? Like I don't
Absolutely.
care about competing. I just want to
Yeah.
become better. Like all the time I want to be better. And I think it
You,
comes
you
from
men-
an insecurity of my blindness too. Like if I'm
Mhm.
being honest, like I think I need to be amazing because people automatically are going to think I can't do much.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
So you overcompensate in some
Exactly.
ways. You mentioned the other coaches and crowds and even the refs kind of getting into your head. That was something that was really kind of focused on in the documentary. I'm curious about the journey from that guy, which, like you say, you were a kid in high school. A lot of kids are impetuous and kind of they're very emotional, react to
Mhm.
things. But you definitely, when you lost, you were in the locker
That's
room
probably
in
the rawest
tears.
moment of that film.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious how you went from that guy that we saw to the one love guy that we see in front of us, who is like all you focus on is spreading joy and lifting up the man next to you. Like, was that a journey that you made the choice? Like, hey, I need to stop letting this stuff get to me. I need to be a more positive person, or was that just the natural evolution of somebody growing up?
All right, do you guys want the long answer
Of course.
or the short
We got
answer?
plenty of
Yeah,
time.
Okay.
man.
All right, gonna bring you through it for a minute then. I
All right.
uh I went to college, right? I went to the college in New Jersey after high school. I wrestled for a year and a half. I got a really bad concussion wrestling, and it kind of spooked me. And I stopped wrestling. And then at that point, I felt like I lost my identity because I was just wrestling. Through that was like something that gave me like I don't want to say purpose, but it gave me this drive and it helped me like, work towards something, right? And like
For sure.
college
Yeah.
was kind of hard for me. Those environments, I learned that like everyone's not made for those environments and that's okay. But uh, you know, I was just not doing well. I was like smoking a ton of pot. I was just like not not well. And I uh I left college. I was in this relationship at the same time with a girl from, I was dating her since like my junior or senior year of high school. And, you think you're in love, you think you're going to get married to this person. At the same time, her parents hated that I was blind.
Hmm.
And they always said to her, like, he's never going to be able to drive you anywhere. He's never going to be able to take care of you, all this stuff. And we broke up because of that. And that really fucked me up bad, dude. Like,
I bet.
thinking I'm not worthy of love because I'm blind, thinking like I'll never have a family, thinking I'll never be able to support a family. Like the most yeah, I have vivid memories of crying to my dad on the phone in college, like no one's ever gonna love me, I'm not worth anything, like all this stuff, like the self-worth, the security, all that. And I went home, I left college and I got like super depressed. Like I was just I was just sitting in my basement room smoking weed all day, doing nothing to better myself. And I got so in this dark place and no one could help me. My parents were trying all they could. No, I wouldn't listen to anyone. And I just like finally I was getting these scary thoughts, like not that I would ever kill myself, but thoughts of that, like, oh, is life even worth it and stuff. And like
Mhm.
started feeling so unsafe in my own skin that I checked myself into a mental hospital for a couple days at like 20. And then I learned all this stuff about like mental health. I went through like the outpatient stuff. I tried medicine and realized like really for me I just needed to like talk and like get to the root of things.
Sure.
So I was able to, work on this mental health journey. And then as like life happens, it's just like one thing led to another. I started bettering myself. Like you have to work on yourself before you could be good for anyone else too. And it's like, yoga, doing everything I could to like be healthy. And the whole stuff with the film happened. And then I get reached out by the Paralympic stuff. And I'm doing that for about a year into it. And then my buddy invites me over the day I get home from Japan. And I go over to his house and he's dating this girl from New York, and her sister came to visit, and I met the sister, and like I'm always talked about as, oh, this is my blind friend, my blind friend's crazy, he does all this crazy shit, like my blind friend. And so like that's all she knows, and she's like trying to figure it out. She's like, how blind is this guy? And like we're walking around, my friends all decide to go to the outlets, which is like the worst place for me, and I go there and I'm too macho, I'm like not using my cane, I'm trying to like act because I'm so insecure about my blindness because of all those things.
Yeah.
And she finally asked me, we're walking through this store and you could tell I'm walking like real, just like stuttery, like not confident. And she's like, you need some help? And I'm like, nah, I got it. And I walk right into a pole in the middle of the store, like head first. And she's like, oh yeah, you need help. And then grabbed me and like helped me around the rest of the day, and just became this amazing thing. And then a couple weeks later, I had my film premiere in New York City for A Shot in the Dark. And I wanted to bring a date, and I like wanted, it's so stupid, but I wanted to bring someone that like nobody knew. My buddy is actually married to her sister today. So it's funny, we're both married to sisters. And she comes to my film premiere, and she thought so much about it that she was like, well, he's not gonna be able to see me, so I need to like feel nice. So she wore a velvet dress for me, and like it was like above and beyond. And
Wow.
we walked around the event, she's helping me out so much, telling me like when people are coming up to talk to me, all this stuff, like warning me, all this stuff. And later on, my mom, she's like, did you hire like an orientation and mobility instructor to like help you out at the event? Like that's how natural she was. And she worked remotely, and I was training for the Olympics, so traveling around the world, and we would travel together. We fell in love. But while I was training for the Olympics, the pandemic hit and everything kind of stopped, right? And you're like, what is the world gonna look like? I can't do any judo right now. All my eggs were in that judo basket. I was like just so committed to judo and putting everything into it, like make or bust type thing. And when this hit, you're like, holy shit, dude, that was maybe a dumb move. Like, what am I gonna do now? And I was scrolling on like social media, and I was like, dude, it was during pandemic and the election, so it was like double whammy of people being so nasty to each other and so negative. And how can I make a difference in this like dark space? Because it was making me sick, and I didn't like post on social media. I never really had a presence on there. And I decided like, I would busk a lot outside of our apartment to make money for like rent and stuff. And it was working really well because people were craving anything like positive, like some music and stuff. So I'd play guitar and sing, and people were very generous. And I was like, oh, this is making people smile. Like, why don't we take this on the road? Like, because we travel so much, but we can't get on a plane. Let's just get in the car and like go. And we planned a 10,000-mile, 7-week cross-country road trip, live busking tour, where I set up in all these like beautiful spots in America, and like live stream to the world for people for like 30 minutes at a time to just like get out of that rut like any way I could. And we got back, it was an amazing trip. And when I say live stream to the world, it was like 3 people on Facebook.
I've been there.
And so, it was pretty, I didn't care because I was like, dude, we just planned something, like we branded it, we made posters, we did all this stuff, raised money, and like we did it and like sent it and made these goals and accomplished them. And then I was like, how can we reach more people, and she's like, what if you do a dance on TikTok with your cane? Like that might go viral. And I was like, get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm not doing that. So I started like scrolling on these apps more, and like realized people, post about their lives and stuff, and it's different. And I felt like I had a story to share because, I also do motivational speaking since I was 18. And I just felt like I wanted to, ever since I was a kid, if you asked me what I wanted to do, I always just told you I wanted to help people. Like I didn't know how or what or when that would be. But I wanted to reach more people with my story. I'm like, maybe I can help someone that's like going through it and doesn't think they could like get out of this, and that like life, because when you're in the dark, man, it doesn't seem that life will ever get light. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's like, I just wanted people to feel some hope or something in this dark, crazy time. And I posted, I'm Anthony, I look pretty normal, right? But I'm actually blind, and I'm on Team USA and skateboard, surf, do all this stuff. And it went viral overnight. I had like 10 followers, and it had like 100 views. And I woke up with like, thousands of messages and all this stuff. And people were like, well, if you're blind, like, how do you do that? How do you do this? This is amazing. What the heck? Like, we need something like this right now. Like everything's so negative, and the one love thing I just said at the end of the video, like kind of just like in passing, because it's like kind of saying like love you, like, you know, Bob Marley people reference, or like when we were kids we always just say one love like around the beach, you know, to each other, and people were like one love, like this is what we need right now, and all this stuff, and you know, just started making this content around my life, showing people how I cook, and just do even mundane tasks up to like extreme things like, you know, trying to drop in on Tony Hawk's ramp, and like doing all this crazy shit. And it's like, dude, go live your life. That's all. And people, if they felt anything, like any positivity for that 30-second video, like maybe you'll share that feeling with someone else, and it could spread like the negativity spreads, you know? It's so,
Yeah.
and it just kept going, and it was really overwhelming because I would never think I would ever have a platform where I could, you know, help people so massively, and like, you know, and doing it alongside my wife, who's my partner, and you know, now we have a almost 2-year-old daughter, and getting to do that together, it's like my dad, like he'll tap me on the shoulder sometimes, he'll be like, remember college, remember those phone calls? It's like, look at you now. It's like
Nice.
so it's a really full circle moment, and just being able to help people on, you know, a massive level is really
Yeah.
incredible. And negativity's so contagious, so just trying to combat that. But I will say real quick, like, you see me so positive online and all this stuff, like I still have dark days, and there's still days like I don't want to get out of bed, but you know, it starts with like little things. Like it's just like how winning a tournament seemed impossible if I couldn't score a point. It's like, how am I going to get outside and do anything if I can't even get out of my bed? So it's like, set those goals small, like make these little ones, like, all right, let me get out of bed and make my bed so I don't lay back in it. And then it's like, okay, I'm out of my bed. Let me just like take a shower. It might feel good, you know? And then like, oh, wow, that felt good. I should brush my teeth and like get dressed. Oh man, maybe I can make it outside today. You know, like stuff like that, just like starting little, and you could have the best day of your life, like getting out that door.
Yeah.
I love this story for so many reasons. Two things jump out at me. One is just, you know, you tend to hear these stories a lot where it becomes all about the positivity, and the fact that you embrace the reality that life is bittersweet, that your situation, there are challenges to it. There've been challenges along the way. You continue to have challenges, but you fight through it, and you do those incremental little steps to cope and fight through and do things that turn into positive things in your life. That is so much more relatable than saying like, oh, I did this and that and now everything's great. You know,
I actually read this self-help book, and my life's been great ever since.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that really helpful for me because I have a similar story, just in terms of like, had something really challenging in my life happen and then kind of turn a page at a certain point. But it's like, I'd be lying if I said that life is perfect. We're all dealing with challenges in our lives. And if anything, if you pretend like that's not the case, then you make people feel badly, actually, that their life isn't perfect. And so the relatability of that is so important to your message. The other element that I love, you know, if I were to buy the rights to your story and make this into a movie, the love story with your wife is just so touching to me, because I was just getting so sad hearing all the stories of prejudice in your life. And it's like, on top of the challenges that you've had, like, you know, people being such assholes.
Yeah.
And then you have this wonderful person who just, you know, came along into your life, and it seems like was just this light of positivity, and somebody that, not just obviously somebody you really like and care about, but that really turned the page on that for you. And I imagine that changed things for you as much as it did kind of, you know, just bring something into your life that was good.
Absolutely. It was so healing, because she helped me embrace my blindness, because I am blind and I can't hide it, dude. I used to try and hide it my whole life. Like in middle school, when I transferred to the public school, like I would try and hide my Braille books under my desk. I would doodle on print handouts thinking no one would notice, like I'm filling them out or something. And like, she helped me embrace, like, so she was in New York City. That's where she lived. And I remember going to the city, dude, being blind in New York City is like one of the most intimidating things ever. And I was so in love with this girl that like I wanted to make a life around her. So I pretty much moved my life to New York City. Like all my trainings, I found gyms there. I started navigating. I became friends with the drug dealers on the streets because they would help me cross, and they would help read the menus on the food trucks. Like I utilized everything I could, and she helped me embrace using my cane. Like when I started using my cane and I'm like, dude, fuck it, I'm blind. Like I don't have to be that insecure kid where, you know, I'm not worthy of love. Like this girl loves me for who I am. And it really was like a healing moment, and helped me become fully confident in myself.
Yeah, and your videos are a perfect encapsulation of both those things because one, they're so disarming and blunt. You just start like, I'm blind and here's how I put on a tie. Like you just sort of like lay it out there. No one is tiptoeing like I'm visually impaired and you don't have to be
Oh
embarrassed about it.
yeah.
Like you just throw it out there. That's the first thing. And the second thing is watching some of the behind the scenes stuff with your wife, who is the absolute like G.
Yeah,
She
she's
just
dope.
runs the set, and she's like you did a video with catching throwing a pass to Rob Gronkowski, and she's like, Rob, stand over there. No, Rob, over there.
Behind the
Like,
scenes is so good.
she's just running everything. So it seems like you guys are such this perfect pair where she's like, I know where Anthony needs help and I'll help, and it's not awkward and it's not embarrassing. It just is what it is. We're a team.
Exactly.
And that must just feel so empowering for you to be like, I don't have to be ashamed of this. I don't have to hide this. I've got a partner here who's in this 100% with me.
No, she's amazing. She made me like stop apologizing for being blind too. Like I used to bump into people and then be like, sorry, I'm blind. And she's like, stop fucking apologizing for being blind. It's not like your fault you're blind. She's like, just say, oh, excuse me or something. You know, it's like the wording.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes.
I want to ask, just because I said the next thing that I connected with was the skateboarding. Yeah. So you skateboarded before you completely lost your vision? Is that how you sort of had the muscle memory of like when you're on a half pipe and you kind of know the coping's coming? I know where the coping's coming and I still get hung up trying to do fakie rocks and stuff. Like, is it just a picture in your head of knowing, like I said, where the coping is, and how do you do it, man? How do you do it? I see you use the cane sometimes, right?
Now I use the cane pretty regularly. So I grew up around it my whole life, just kind of rolling around. My brothers used to build the ramps out in the driveway, and I just wanted to be around them, so just naturally. Yeah. And then I would go to the local skate park, and there was this, like 3-foot mini ramp that I could easily map out and have it memorized, and then I would never go beyond that though, because that was my comfort zone, and I never thought I could go beyond that anyway. So I kind of put down, it's weird that this happened, so I used to skateboard the mini ramp a lot when I was in high school or whatever, and then when my brother passed, because it was like connected to my brother, like skateboarding, he always thought it was the coolest thing ever that I was skateboarding. Like there's pictures,
so do I.
and he always, like, before I even thought it was like I never like thought blindness was a thing. Like I used to not think I was blind when I could see a little bit. Like I used to bump into people in the store when I was young, and my mom would be like, sorry, he's blind, and I'd be like, no, I'm not, like, and I'd freak out. But so people always thought it was something amazing, and then when he passed, I kind of like subconsciously just stopped skateboarding and put it down. And one day in about, I think it was 2019 or so, I was at my other brother John's house. He lives in the house that my brother lived in before he passed. And I was in the garage and I bumped into this skateboard. I was like, oh, whose is this? He's like, that's Ollie's. You should take it. And I was like, no way. And I like immediately connected with it and started skateboarding again, like going on the mini ramp that I grew up doing. And I just saw these other blind skateboarders online, because now social media is such a thing, and I was like, whoa, that's sick, like they're doing cool stuff. How could I do that? And in 2021, I got invited by these guys like Dan Mancina, Nick Mullins, Justin Bishop, Coco, Itama. There's a bunch of them. I asked Dan, because Dan Mancina's like, he's a goat of like street skating. He skates for Adidas and Real. And I was like, dude, how do you like grind? Like, I never thought I could do like a 50-50 on a ledge, which is just, for people that don't know, it's just when you put the two trucks on the skateboard on a ledge and grind and then jump off. And he showed me on this super small ledge, and I remember landing a 50-50. I was like, dude, this is sick. Like, it just unlocked this whole new world for me, because I love skateboarding, and it's like, it's that obsession of just getting better at something and like attacking a trick until you land it. Like, it could take forever, but when you roll away, it's like so worth it. And it just got me obsessed. Like, I just, like anything else I do, I kind of get in this obsessive phase where I just want to excel. Like, I need to get to a level that's acceptable, around like good people. I just kept skating, and it led me to being able to do an adaptive demo at the 2024 Olympics in Paris during the Olympics on the course with a few other buddies. And it was like, such an unreal experience. And like being able to use my platform to like raise awareness that there is adaptive skateboarding, and like, trying to further it into getting into the Paralympics is a goal. So it's really cool being able to help pioneer these things.
What were some of the features? Because I saw a video where you were at an adaptive skate park that had some features that were specifically designed for visually impaired skaters. What are some of those?
So there's my buddy Dan, who I was just talking about. We actually do a podcast together, a little plug, For Bad Eyes podcast. And he built the first ever, he raised all this money, he had this vision forever, like since 2017. And he's like wanted to build this adaptive skate park to be able to host clinics for blind people and, get more blind people to be able to skateboard or even just try it. And he went through all these loops, man. Like he had it ready to go in his old house, and then the town shut him down when they were ready to build, and he literally got up and moved homes to find a place where he could, build this skate park, and then finally created it. So the features are extra wide in terms of like the quarter pipe is the whole one side of the skate park. So you don't have to worry about trying to like pinpoint going up a quarter pipe. You can go left or right and not be super sketched out. And then like for when you're blind, when you're setting up to grind something like a rail or a ledge, sometimes you need a second to like, set up while you're rolling. And features don't really help that because they're like 8 feet long or 10 feet long, and it's not very long to set up. So he made a 40-foot long flat bar and a 40-foot long ledge and this like super wide staircase that, you don't have to worry about getting in between two rails. And for people that are visually impaired, there's like really good contrast in the skate park, color wise, so you can see where the features are and stuff.
That's so cool.
Well, I have relatively good vision, but I can't even fathom doing that with good vision. I can't. So doing it when you have visual impairment makes it even more impressive to me. Now, on top of all of that, you also mentioned a great guitar player. I found out you have a record coming out. Tell us about that.
Well, it's not ready yet, but I am in the midst of, so I started playing guitar actually when I was like 18, 19, and it kind of paired perfectly in life with like all the intense, physical stuff that it was like an escape. And guitar became this thing. I grew up listening to rap and all this stuff, and my dad tried so hard to like, he would try and put some blues on or like something on, because he drove me to school every morning in high school, and he would try so hard to get me to listen. I'd be like, dude, put on like Akon or something, Eminem, whatever. I was like, it was so bad. And I feel bad for my dad to endure all that. But one day, my buddy made me go to this jam band show. It was Fish, like my senior year of high school at PNC, and I was like, my first time ever being to a concert with like real instruments and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, like scene's a little weird, but this is pretty sick. And I was like, damn, guitar's kind of cool. And then my Uncle Tony left a guitar at my parents' house because he always said you can't force someone to play guitar, you just put it in their lap, and if they pick it up, they'll do it. And one day at my house, my dad's playing the trumpet, and my buddy who plays the drums is on the djembe, and I'm out back, and I'm like, dude, I want to play. And then like I run downstairs, I grab this guitar that I know is down there, just like Yamaha or the Takamine acoustic guitar, and I start strumming on it, but I don't know how to play the guitar. And my dad shows me a C chord, and I just start wailing on this thing. Like it was so bad that my nickname was Stonehands. Because I had no rhythm.
Manos de Piedras.
I had no rhythm. I didn't even know what 4/4 meant. I was like, you mean like 8? Like I had no idea. Like, and I just wanted to get better though. Just like anything I fall in love with, it's that obsession. And I needed to get better. And then I started, I had my dad show me an A minor next, and just strumming these chords, trying to put them together, like how to go from one to the other. And then I'm like, all right, I need to get better. So I need someone that's like really good to teach me. And I was getting a haircut one day, and this guy tells me about a blind guitar player who's a teacher, and he's like 75 years old, teaches out of his house and stuff. So I end up going to this guy, and he teaches me in 6 months, like music. He's like, I'll teach you in 6 months a way that you can learn for the rest of your life on your own. And he did just that, and like taught me music theory. I grasped enough and learned chords. I learned scales. He helped me visualize a guitar neck in my head, so it like made sense. Like it mapped it out for me. So I'm seeing it in my head when some people get to look down or whatever. But it really helped connect the dots in guitar. And then slowly, my buddies, my one buddy who played drums. So his buddy was getting rid of a drum set, so my dad got it, and then he put it in our basement. And our basement was basically like a hoarder room of my mom's like, furniture and crap. We would just play like around the stuff that was in there. And then we had a piano down there, a baby grand, and my one buddy just started learning piano. He made up like a jam that was like 2 chords, and we called it Max's Groove. And we used to jam this for like hours, just trying to, and like I had learned the scales from this guy, so we're just like, improvising, having fun, staying out of trouble. And my one buddy started playing bass, and next thing you know, we're like, people were like, oh, you want to come play here? No one sang in the band, so I had to start singing. And I was like tone deaf, dude. It was just like guitar. Like I was god awful. And I just, seeked out a singing coach. Like if you want to get good, you got to find the people to help you. So then next thing you know, we're playing gigs and we're playing like bars, we're playing parties. Like my dad always says, he's like, I don't know if you have like no brains or the biggest set of balls I've ever like seen in my life. He's like, you're
a little column A, a little column B.
And like, dude, when I remember playing, I got a gig at this nice restaurant, like a really nice restaurant. And here I am with my Fishman amp and my acoustic guitar and microphone trying to play. I'm playing half songs. I'm not even playing full songs. I can't even sing yet. I don't even know the words to all these songs, but I'm sitting in the corner just doing it. And it's like forced practice, forced, performing. And I just like fell in love with, performing for people and just playing guitar, because it truly is like when I'm playing guitar, it's like blindness isn't a thing. I'm just like escaped. And, next thing I knew, I played this music festival and all this stuff. And I'm just like basically playing covers my whole life. And now I'm finally, I don't know if you've ever gotten to this point where you're like sick of playing other people's music and you want to like be able to speak what you have, but you don't know how to do it. And I've never been a writer in my life, but like, really trying to hone in that skill and force myself to sit down and write. Now I have all these like half songs written and need to finish them. And so I'm trying to write an EP for this year to put out my own, original music. I have like 1 or 2 songs up, but it's nothing that'll, now I'm really trying with like my buddy does, all the mixing and stuff and really trying to get it right and realizing how much you hate your voice in certain takes. And it's just like it's a whole thing,
And from your track record, I'm not going to bet against you getting that done this year. I think it's probably
there's 2 other elements to your story that keep coming up that I want to highlight both of them, but ask you about the second one. The first one is, it just seems like whatever you do, if there's a will, there's a way. It's like there's whatever obstacle there is in the way. Maybe it's the fact that you have something to prove, and it's like this desire to say, well, oh, you're telling me I can't do that? Well, I'm going to do it. And that's an amazing, attribute to have in terms of being able to accomplish things. We see our limitations often more than we see the possibilities. And it seems like you see the possibilities whenever you're confronted with any kind of limitation. The second thing is that every element of your life, all these different things that you've done and continue to do and learn new things, there's an element of fun to it. It seems like when you talk about it, there's a joyousness, there's a childlike quality of like, I'm just going to have fun with this. And that's inspiring to me too, because we live in a time right now when it's like, have we lost joy completely? Because there's so much that's dark and depressing about the world. And it can be really hard to just feel like you can have innocent, pure fun the way you just described. Like when you're playing guitar, you're just in your element. You're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about your blindness. You're thinking about playing music for the enjoyment of it. So how have you been able to harness that part of yourself that's just simply joyful and fun amidst all of the challenges?
The one huge thing is I don't watch the news.
Okay.
I'm serious.
Smart.
It's too depressing. It's probably, it's a good and bad thing. But the second thing is like, I am such a child, man. Like, especially having a kid now, it's so fun to get to relive like through a child's eyes, like just that excitement and try and be that for her. And life is way too short. Maybe it's losing people throughout my life. I don't know. But like my brother always went by like Matthew McConaughey's saying, like, just keep living. Like my brother loved that foundation. And I embody that. Like I embrace it. I have ADHD pretty bad. And that like, I get super excited over things, and I try and ride that like adrenaline wave. It's not so much like a manic thing. It's more like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, like why half-ass it? Why not try something? Because if you don't try something in life, you don't know whether it's going to be your next favorite thing in life or something you're never going to do again. But you'll never know unless you try it. Like I went ice skating the other day and dude, I got so competitive. I tried learning I learned how to do like the spins that they do in like the figure skating. I was doing like 180s. I was like eating shit on the ice. Like I was just having fun. Like it's like, dude, be a kid and like why be so serious, Like, yes, there's times to be serious, of course, but you gotta live and laugh a little. I mean, it sounds corny, but it's like true.
No, absolutely. You mentioned your brother. One of my favorite parts of that movie was when your brother decided to mess with the parent who wanted to talk shit about you. And he does it in such a joyful way for you. Like, he didn't get into a fight with the guy. He started to play along. He's like, yeah, I heard he's not even blind. I think he's faking it. And this other parent is like leaning into it, being like, yeah, I don't know, it's just not fair. And he's like, yeah, totally. And then he walks away, and the guy's like, your brother's like, fuck you.
It's so good.
It's great. It's great, but it shows like it's not worth getting too serious about. It's not worth worrying about. It's about staying happy and staying positive and supporting you. It wasn't about, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a great tribute to your brother.
Thank you. Yeah, that sums my brother up in a nutshell too. Like, he truly incredible force. And like, any time in life I said I couldn't do something, he'd be like, why not? Let's figure out a way. And we would. So it's like, people hear us all the time, but like, hurt people do hurt people. They try and hurt people. So it's always someone that's going through something and feeling worse than you and seeing you like, doing somewhat well, and they want you to be down where they are. Human interaction is such a precious thing, man, especially today's day and age. Like, you really consume so much from online and just like the internet, whatever. And I try and be that same force that you see online when you meet me in real life, because even if I'm having an off day, just fought with my wife, I'm like pissed at the world for being blind, whatever it is, it's like, dude, that person gets that 1 minute interaction with you and they might never get another one again. So how do you want to leave them feeling, And it's like, dude, I'm like a Z-list person, you know what I mean? But like, it's really important to like think about that. Like, your time is such a precious thing. You leave everlasting impressions on people. Like, I'll never forget when I was 12 years old, man. I went to a Nets versus Nuggets basketball game. I was so stoked, man, because I went to school in Philly for the blind till 6th grade, and I was a huge Allen Iverson fan, like huge. And
and then he was on the Nuggets.
He was on the Nuggets. And I had my Carmelo Anthony jersey because I thought it was cool that said Anthony on the back. Right. I get to go in the back after the game and meet both teams. I get to meet like, Marcus Camby, nicest guy in the world, Nene, this guy from Brazil, like Jason Kidd, all these people, so sweet, man. Like, they left everlasting impressions on me. And Carmelo Anthony signs my jersey, like such a sweet dude. And then I hear Iverson. I'm like, dude, it's Iverson, And like, I'm so stoked. And I walk up to him, this little like chubby blind kid with his cane, with his jersey on. I'm like, Iverson, I'm like the biggest fan. Can I please get a picture? He's like, no, man, I gotta go. And he walks away, and then like 3 seconds later, a pretty girl stops him, and he stops and takes a picture with her and signs her thing. And his posse with him, like not even the team, just like his friends, they were like, yo, that's messed up. Like, you're not gonna show that blind kid some love. And Iverson came back, and I was like, no, man, I'm good. And I was heartbroken. And I walked away from it. And like, that left the worst impression. Like, I think Allen Iverson's a jerk because of that, interaction. And I think things like that are important to remember.
Absolutely. Anthony, it's been such an awesome opportunity to talk to you. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. I'm curious about one or two other things. When you play the guitar, are there tactile, like fret markers or anything?
No, it's just all memorization and hearing.
Awesome. And you said, New York City was like the most sensory overload for a blind person I can imagine. What would you say are like the biggest challenges for a visually impaired person? What are the things that people really don't think about?
Probably that you can't see shit. I was very fortunate because my mom raised me in a way that you're living in a visual world. Like, don't be a weirdo. Like, don't like gouge at your eyes, don't pick at your face, don't do all this. Like, that's not normal soft social skills. But in a city, like, it's intimidating, but it's just getting out of your comfort zone. And then it's like anything with repetition. I fell in love with the city. And once you're able to make it there, like, I feel like anywhere I go in the world now, I'm like, dude, I lived in New York City, I can get around this city.
Yeah.
Now, on top of the content that you create online doing all this stuff, you also do some motivational speaking as well, right?
Yeah, to anywhere from like kids to, corporate events and stuff, talking about just like overcoming challenges, obstacles, goal setting, team building, and different things like that, adversity.
How did that come about? Was that something you sought out, or did people start seeking you out because of your...
Actually, when I was 18, my wrestling coach from high school asked me to come speak at a thing, and I was like, dude, who the hell am I to speak to anyone? And I just told my story from my heart. I didn't even like prepare a speech, and it was so well received that this guy there named Dan Duddy, he was a speaker as well, and he brought me under his wing for like, maybe 2 years, bringing me to all these different schools and stuff, and letting me watch him and open for him essentially. And it was really helpful just doing it. It's just putting yourself out there. Like, everything I've done in my life, it's about like sucking at first, you know? Like you have to be shitty at this to get better. And I think that's what I fall in love with is it's not getting to the top. It's like that mountain, like climbing that mountain, because everything you're doing is learning and like overcoming stuff and unlocking new skills.
Do you get up there and just kind of wing it in terms of telling your story and speaking from the heart, or do you script it out? Do you have like a speech that you prepare? I'm curious because I do this stuff myself and I'm always learning as well.
Right, and I actually have two methods. When it's a free flow, like 45-minute speech, 30 minutes to an hour or whatever, it's very easy for me. Like weeks before I start, like, you know, brainstorming in my mind, like, you know, whatever the points of you always have to look at what their themes are, and you want to kind of mold everything into back to those themes. And then when it's like, for example, I was just in LA and I had to give an 8-minute speech, and I found out like the week before, thinking for months up to it, I was doing like a 40-minute speech, and I found I had to give an 8-minute speech. And those ones you have to be a little more strategic because it's a keynote and you want to like really impact everyone with the words you use. So for that, it's really important for me to get like, you know, not word for word memorized. I just kind of write it out and read it a couple times, but I'll make sure I have a strong intro and closing, like structurally, so I know where I'm going, if that makes sense. And then I have the little chunk in the middle, like a little story to relate it to or whatever.
Amazing. Anthony, tell our listeners where they can find you, what to look for in terms of all the stuff that you're doing right now, and where to find you.
Yeah, everything you could just find at asfvision.com. Everything's there, so.
And on social media, you're the same, ASF Vision on Instagram and TikTok.
Absolutely.
And stuff.
Yep.
And check out the Four Bad Eyes podcast.
Please. And then A Shot in the Dark, and then look out. Yeah, I have like 2 songs on Spotify right now, 1 original and 1 old cover that's in the public domain, as they say.
Right.
I think
I'm watching it.
Make Me Down a Pallet on Your Floor. It's an old blues song. But I am also, my new project, kids' music is so freaking annoying, so I'm going to put out a children's album of like acoustic guitar singing and making some of those children's songs a little less, you know, a little more bearable.
I wish I had that 10 years ago. Yeah, my son had to endure all the horrible children's songs stuff. So.
Insane.
Anthony, it's been awesome talking to you, man. I hope next time you come into LA, if you're here for a skate event or something, we can link up. I'd love to
absolutely
meet you in person and hang out.
Yeah, same here. Thank you guys for your time, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate what you're doing. Mental health is such an important thing.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
One love.
One love.
One love.
All right, Anthony Ferraro has been our guest on this episode of the Harder to Breathe podcast. We have new episodes that drop every Tuesday. Tune in again next week. We'll see you next time on the Harder to Breathe podcast.